This is Hookah and Chill, episode 2, Kendrick versus Drake. Like I said, if you like my content, please subscribe. Small click for you means the world to me. I'm smoking on Torpedo, Dark Side Shisha Torpedo, watermelon, honeydew, melon, and I mix it with a little bit of Fallen Star, which is passion fruit and mango, and some Superman because I love mint. Now, one of the biggest rap beefs is Biggie versus Pac because it was East Coast versus West Coast and it resulted in death. I'm not promoting that. I hate that part of hip hop where people die. I just wanted to be strictly music. But the second is Kendrick and Drake, and the third will be Jay and Biggie. Jay and Nas, right? And when I say that Kendrick and Drake was bigger than Jay and Nas was because Jay and Nas was Jay and Nas. It was Rockefeller, Bravehearts, Ill Will Records, State Property, Beanie Siegel. Dipset was going after him a little bit, but it wasn't a coast versus a coast. It was kind of like Queens versus Brooklyn and Harlem for the most part, and Philly, right? Now, Jay-Z had a record called Takeover, and he said something. He talked about Mobb Deep, but he said, ask Nas, he don't want him with Hov. I don't remember the response time, how quick it happened, but by the time he did Ether, he had a whole album and everything, and I was a Jay-Z fan, so it hurt me. I was like, God damn, nah. And, he came as his character, basically saying he doesn't have any substance in rap, kind of like Kendrick said about Drake. Saying he's with an underage girl, which is Foxy Brown, like how Drake says. But we got over it. We went to the music. We were still Jay-Z fans. No one really looked at Jay-Z different or anything, or looked at Nas different. And it was short. It was maybe a year. I feel like this Drake and Kendrick beef is going on forever, right? And the big difference is he called him a PDF. And another big difference is the Super Bowl. Having him perform in the Super Bowl, calling somebody PDF, national television, is crazy, right? And also, it was just Jay-Z and Nas, like I said, in his clique, where this was like everybody was jumping in on Drake. Like, Travis Scott turned his back, Rick Ross was going on him, talking about he had a BBL. Metro Boomin got in, Future. You got Weeknd. This is the first time you had a singer hop in on the confrontation. I was like, yo, this is crazy. We got a lot of good records. The first record that we got was Like That. And when Like That came out, the Future album, I was listening to it, and at the time, he didn't list any features, so I didn't know who was on the album. And I heard, I was like, yo, is that Kendrick? And then he said something, and he kept saying stuff, and I was like, I don't know. But then he said, for all the dogs getting buried, like a K9, and I was like, oh man, he's going at Drake, right? And me, as a fan, what I learned with Jay-Z, he don't respond to everybody. He might do a little subliminals, but he don't do a whole record. So I was surprised when Drake came out with Push-Ups. And Drake responded with Push-Ups, phenomenal record, right? And I'm like, he smoked Kendrick, right? Smoke, like it's hookah. Delicious, by the way. Dark Side. Anyway, so I'm like, all right, Drake got it. I'm Drake because he went with Meek Mill and nothing happened. Pusha T, nothing happened. So I was like, all right, that's it. What Kendrick gonna say? And I think before Kendrick responded, he did the Taylor freestyle, and he did the AI, which I didn't even know you could do. You did the AI with Snoop Dogg and Tupac. I said, oh, this was clever. This was different, right? I'm like, okay. But then Kendrick dropped Euphoria. And we don't want to hear you say, nigga, no. I was like, oh, man. And then he was just going in, saying that he had to go to Atlanta. All of this. I was like, oh, man. So I was like, all right. So I'm like, Drake still got it. He don't need to respond. And then Drake dropped Family Matters. Or I don't know. I think Kendrick had dropped Meet the Grams, and he was talking about he had a daughter. And I was like, oh my God. it's over because I'm like, this is another child that you're not claiming. So, oh man, right? So I'm sitting there, and Drake dropped Family Matters, and I was like, this ain't nothing. He got this. But then when Kendrick dropped They Not Like Us, that was a game changer because I was like, okay, he went to Drake's level. He made a hit record. It's got radio spins. It's catchy, right? And I'm like, nah. And then I think Drake dropped 6 p.m. and whatever he was at. He always got those timestamp records. And I was confident. But the thing about it is, it was like, you would think all these people that Drake did records with, they would jump in like, oh, da-da-da-da, OVO. Nah, everybody was silent. Silent. But I don't get into politics, people's character. We just talk about music. So me as a Drake fan, I'm like, damn. And it was like, people at basketball games, dancing Day Not Like You see like LeBron James, a few basketball players. I was like, yo, what's going on? I'm like, yo, this was his guy. You know what I'm saying? Like when he was on, Cleveland Cavaliers, and I was like, yo, this was his guy. Like he always, LeBron, and Drake, and then to watch LeBron dance to the music, whatever, I was like, yo, how would I feel? I was like, that's crazy, right? And then Rick Ross was going in, and then they did the BBL Drizzy sample. But what I loved was Drake flipped that on the Sexy Red record. BBL Drizzy, I was like, all right, cool. But I was like, I feel like we still not getting over it. I feel like music is not the same because, music was relying on those Drake features, and Drake features didn't come out. He had maybe 2. He had the Sexy Red record and the most recent, the 21 Savage record, Mr. Recoup, which is getting bad reviews. And I remember Drake never got bad, even when he did Tootsie Slide, not the biggest fan of that, but he never really got bad reviews. So it's so crazy how important the support of your label is, because I feel like with the Meek Mill thing, he had to support the label. You couldn't say nothing about Drake. You had to stop, cease and assault. But when you have 50 rappers coming at you, and I was like, that's why I feel like Drake is truly great, because he needed 50 rappers to come beef with him to really lose the battle. He didn't just lose against Kendrick. He lost. I'm not saying he lost against Rick Ross, but the reason why the battle was so difficult is because he's got to make a record and address 20 people. Travis Scott, The Weeknd, Rick Ross, A$AP Rocky, all these people. And I was like, but you know what? Drake had a 15-year run, and I feel like that alone is a success because no one else had a run like that. And it's just crazy. However you look at it, if you're a conscious rapper or not, like I'm a fan of both. But I'm more of a Drake fan. When I'm in the car, when I'm in the club, I want to hear Drake. But again, substance and everything. Yeah, Kendrick got it. He has a lot of bars, a lot of substance. But Drake has bars and substance. But to each his own. Still a Drake fan, but it was definitely crazy. It's one of the craziest rap beefs of all time. And I'm just like, I don't think people are ever going to get past this. It's crazy. But it was good for music, and I loved it. And I loved it. I appreciated it. I'm glad it happened, but I hate that it happened because music shifted, because now no one's making records with Drake. You don't have no Rick Ross Drake records. You don't have no Metro Boomin beats. You don't have no Rick Ross, Drake and Travis Scott, which I think they made great music, like Out, Like I Like that was phenomenal. And then even the Meltdown record that they had together, and then it's just kind of like everybody's like, oh, well, I don't know if I should do this song with Drake. Like no one's really doing music with Drake anymore, and I'm like, that sucks because he's such a great collaborator when he gets in the room, and like his energy and like it's just crazy. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's like it became like Drake versus the West Coast and Atlanta. Well, half of Atlanta. Like, it was like Future is like really not messing with you, but 21 Savage still staying solid. And that's when I say, like, 21 Savage is really a solid dude because even Metro and Drake, he not choosing sides. Like, and I think that's dope. And I feel like with this beef, it really exposed of how fake the industry is.